Let's get some political analysis now. We're joined by Lukhanyo Vangqa. Lukhanyo, thanks. I guess because of the delays, is it unfortunate that, like many of these conferences, it then only becomes about who will be announced in the top 5 positions rather than the policies, the substantive issues that are kind of pushed to a virtual meeting that will have to take place later?
Francis, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, the ANC is made politically poorer by the fact that their conferences, national conferences, have sort of been reduced to hollow grounds or shallow grounds of really just positions rather than discussing policy. And you remember the ANC conferences are usually referred to as festivals of ideas, where people come, and that's the highest level of debate within the ANC. That's the highest level of political processing of their policies, their principles, their values, and their constitutional provisions. But now those have been reduced to merely a beauty contest between which leader is going to be elected over the other leader. And the ANC is really robbed of the potential of those delegates who come from the branches, which is the basic unit of the ANC. And the ANC usually says the power is in the branches, but when those branches gather, they don't really discuss policy. They really just only discuss positions, and for that, the ANC is politically poorer.
And not to be negative, but there are also the claims again of huge divisions, huge factionalism. Batabile Dlamini seen as opposed to the president, the other 2 presidential contenders seen as close to the president. Just looking at the names in terms of popularity, Tulashe Unu, it seems to be between those 2 women. Can they unify after this conference? Can they bring women together? And beyond that, can they represent the aspirations of women in this country?
Well, the ANC is a factionalized organization. You don't rise to any position of responsibility within the ANC unless you belong to a faction and you're propelled by that faction to that position of power. Batabile Dlamini this weekend really has a date with karma, because she did the same thing in 2015 when she deposed then ANC Women's League President Angie Motshekga, propelled to that position Batabile Dlamini by the dominant Zuma faction that was referred to at the time as the Premier League faction. So Sisi Tolashe is doing the same thing to her. She's propelled by the CR faction, or seen to be close to the CR faction, and is deposing Batabile Dlamini, who's the outgoing ANC Women's League president. So karma has really come full circle for Batabile Dlamini, and that's really unfortunate. Can they go beyond this petty politics of the intrigues of factions and speak to the broader issue that influence or afflict women in this country? The fact that women are still marginalized from the economy, that the face of poverty in the country is still a woman, usually black, and most likely to be a young person. That's the face of poverty. The high rates of gender-based violence, and the highest rates of femicide in the world that continue to afflict women and make South Africa an unsafe place for women are some of the challenges that the ANC Women's League needs to rise to and be able to confront. But with the intrigue of factionalism still sort of capturing the ANC, it will render that Women's League irrelevant to the challenges that face women today in this country, and they will never be able to rise to the occasion like the women of 1958 did when they marched to the union buildings.
Somebody we spoke to yesterday said that a great achievement, if you really get down to it, is the huge representation of women in the ANC, in the party, the push for that to extend to 50% in governmental positions. Of course, the private sector not affected. But is that because of the Women's League? Is that something they can claim as a victory in the past? Because the criticism is always, well, I mean, what do they actually do for any women's cause?
It is really, Francis, something that we should give credit to them for. I mean, if you look at the 1991 conference, when they fought hard as the ANC Women's League to put into the constitution of the ANC, the 30% gender representation, went further to go fight for 50% gender representation inside of the ANC and also outside of the ANC in terms of government leadership. If you look at the victories that they've been able to deliver in that aspect, cabinet is now 50% women. There was a time when half of all the premiers that we had leading the different provinces were women. The fact that the Speaker of Parliament has usually been a woman. The ANC Women's League really did fight for gender parity in leadership positions, and they do so in the positions of DGs and all those things. But those are victories of yesteryear, to be honest, Francis. There are challenges that afflict women today that the ANC Women's League doesn't seem to be rising to the occasion on, and they can't really rely on those on the history of their victories. They need to step up to the challenges that women are facing today. They need to make South Africa a safer place for women, and unfortunately the current cohort of ANC leaders are really inward looking in their factions and the factionalism that afflicts them, that they're not rising to those challenges today that afflict them. The other issue as well that ANC Women's League really needs to look into is the fact that not enough young people are included in their leadership structures, and they need to include young people that are able to respond to the contemporary challenges that are facing young women in this country, who are also young people, a majority as well in the country.
All right, thank you so much, political analyst Lukhanyo Vangqa. And as soon as the ANC Women's League announces its new leadership, we will bring that to you. As soon as the president speaks, he is expected to close that conference. We will bring it to you live.